Hello and welcome to another episode of Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood. As you know, we talk about addiction, recovery, and reinvention. I have got a fantastic guest today who's going to be talking on a topic that we have never covered before on this podcast. Lindsay Brown is an expert in exits. Now, for those of you who are going, what does that mean? Lindsay is going to help us to understand what it is and why, for many people, when they do exit, it is not what they expected at all. So, Lindsay, over to you.
Hi, Vicky. Thank you so much for inviting me today. Yes, I love talking about this. It's personal experience and what I've seen out in the market. Really, it's for business people who grow their own business, and they, for whatever reason, they may be approached by someone who wants to acquire their business, or they are thinking about their retirement, or like, I've built it, I'm making a fortune, I'm going to sell it and cash in and then move on. Or sometimes people they get so stressed by their own business, they fall out of love, and it's like a divorce. Like, I just want to get rid of it. So there's different reasons that people exit, and there's different types of exits as well. They might sell to a competitor, they might sell to venture capitalists, or they might pass their business down to the next generation in their family. And I work about this sort of psychological transition, as well as the people risks of the business. So I'll work with the owner about, having best value if they're going to market, or it's succession planning if they're going to pass the business on to the next generation. Right. What they don't realize, I think everyone is so focused on the value, the deal, and they don't think about, they might dream about post-deal, thinking, once I'm free of this business and I have money in the bank and time on my hands, I'm going to do travel, buy a new house, relocate, also spend more time with my family, etc. But they don't understand the identity transition and the psychological transition, and they don't prepare the founders for what comes afterwards. So there's support out there for people selling their business. You hear of M&A advisors, corporate lawyers, corporate finance people. And they're focusing on the deal. All the paperwork's done, but they don't look after you afterwards.
Right. And I think that's such an important thing to touch on, because that's really what we wanted to talk about. And I know from personal experience that when my dad passed on his business down to my brother, that identity crisis was something that totally took him by surprise.
Yes.
And I think my brother as well, to the extent that my dad just kept wanting to interfere and dabble in it, because he didn't, he wasn't able to let go, and there was nobody around to ask, or there probably was, but he didn't know where to find somebody to ask about, how do we go about this? And so I think helping people to understand just how does that change? What do you need to do in terms of shifting your identity?
I try and talk to people about things they're more used to. When passing on your business or selling your business is probably once in a lifetime event in your career. But you will read the papers about lottery winners or professional footballers who've had to retire early, or they retire quite young in comparison to a normal career. So they kind of understand that they've got money, they retire, but it's the loss of role, like you just touched on, the loss of structure, because they would have had a regime, whether they're a footballer or running a business, they have a weekly structure, their loss of identity, as you touched on. And like footballers and business people, we run on adrenaline. We get a high when they were doing the deal and, or scoring the goal. And that adrenaline goes. And there is an addiction to adrenaline, as you would know, as an addiction.
Right, absolutely. And that's something that people just don't think about. The addiction to that adrenaline is usually what makes them successful business people in the first place, to be able to be in a position to exit.
Yeah, it's the accelerating drive.
Yeah.
Their friends and around them, or their, they probably think, well, they're all right. They've retired. They've got money in the bank. They can go and play golf every day, and they don't understand, and they don't understand why it's a big thing, this loss and the sudden loss of adrenaline as well. And there's unfortunate things, something called post-exit depression, and it's talked about in America a bit, but I've not seen anything in Britain, and that's why I've thought, not a psychotherapist, but I understand, and I just, by talking it through with someone who understands, and then let's see what your options are in this chapter of your life. And
so I think it's important to just add in there as well, Lindsay, that you have been through this process, and this is why you understand just what does go on and the stuff that you're not prepared for. And oftentimes things like this are spoken about in countries like America because they're more open to just talking about this stuff, whereas we're still very much, I think, stiff upper lip in Britain. Yes, and I know it sounds like it's very old-fashioned, but it's still very real, isn't it?
Yes, and it's such a shame because it's a great success story. You had a brilliant result, and then to have a downside to it, it's such a shame. So it's where I work, and because of the work you do, I see the same patterns in recovery as I do in this issue of like control. You mentioned your father had difficulty handing it totally over to your brother. The overworking, whether they're just putting in the hours to get their business successful, and obviously the deal is a lot of overworking on that, and their burnout. And being a health coach as well, you've probably got clients who are absolutely burnt out. And I strongly suggest that on the first 3 months after a deal, they just decompress physically, and don't jump into a next project as well. You just need that physical and emotional time to decompress.
That adjustment period is something that I think we're very reluctant to do a lot of the time, because there's this idea that you're wasting time, or you should be always doing. And just to be able to sit back and allow yourself just a little bit of space to breathe, and then go, okay, so who am I now?
Who am I now? And you see, they might have got their external validation by who they are. And but they've thrown themselves into their business and the deal, and they've just abandoned themselves as well.
So just on that, which part of that can you relate to then with your story?
The reason I relate to it, because I'm guilty of it myself. So it's like the first significant one was my family business, and I worked there. I started low down admin roles and ended up as an executive director, and I was director of HR, and had like nearly 2,000 to 3,000 employees, depending how the business was running. But big job. And then and I was proud. The family name was on all our vehicles, over on the offices and everything. And we were a national building contractor, and we were bought by a company that just absorbed them into their group, so we lost the name as well. It didn't the brand name, the family name, didn't continue after the sale, which was fine. That was there for their reasons. But when that sale went through, my father had died. He'd probably died about 5 years earlier, and it was like he's still connected, sort of thing. And I was like, my thought that evening was, would Dad be proud? Would he be happy? Would he have wanted this and everything? Because because he pretty much built it with his brothers. But and it was that feeling. And even now, I'm starting to talk about the family business and the family sale. I've still got boxes of paperwork and everything, and it's quite nostalgic for me to look through. And I do post pictures on my blog. Pictures of 1972 trucks and things like that. And
But this is
it's
the bit that we forget, that through your childhood, you were a part of watching and being around Dad building this business up. So it's kind of etched into you, and then the fact that you did go into it as well. And I know it's such a cliche term, but it's true, especially when the name goes. And I can really resonate with this because it's very similar to what happened with my brother and our family business, in that they also merged, and the Howarths of Huddersfield name disappeared. And you kind of, and I've got the same. You have this box of old photos, and it's a proper loss. And I think that's such an important thing, that yes, you've got to gain, but you've also got a loss as well.
Yeah. The people who could understand it are maybe sort of divorcees, they've divorced their spouse, but they had a friendship there as well, or they built something together, or whether it was a family or a home or whatever, and that loss has gone. So they kind of understand. When I speak to divorcees, they understand. And then so a family business is obviously, you've got the blood links and the heritage, but even in a tradition, non-family business, like the second one, or the last one I've just sold, I was brought in to scale it up. So we doubled in size before we went to market, and it was a technology business, software business. So a lot of young people. I was like the mother figure in the office, and you have that emotional tie, and you really want to wish them well. It's a bit like a parental role, maybe. And
the kids leave home for good.
Yes. And and I think it's particularly business owners. I was just a share. I had shares in it, but business founders, they built the whole team pretty much, and it's like they have a lot of guilt that they've sold out, and they haven't. That's a key at the transition stage. It's a key bugbear for them. It's like, how do I break the news to my staff, because they feel disloyal.
And did you have to go through that with your family business? Right, when your family business then kind of merged into the larger group, did you have to go through that process yourself of kind of leaving them behind?
Yeah, the comms, there's a communication piece. We were partnered with them. We had advisors called PwC, so they were used to doing these sort of transactions all the time. So they helped us with the communication piece.
Right.
But you have to sell. Humans don't like change. No. So it was very unnerving for them to find, they joined a family business. They like the feel of and culture of a family business. And then suddenly it's not going to be a family business anymore.
Yeah.
But we kind of unwittingly, we had been preparing for this for 10, 15 years earlier, because we transitioned from being a family run business to a family owned business. We had brought in more and more senior leadership and management who were better than us to run the business. So we kind of, there was like one or two figurehead family names on the board, but 80% of the board was non-family. But the culture was still there. It does run through. So any sort of anything you're trying to, you sort of sell it to them. So we were bought by a big PLC. So there were going to be more opportunities for the individuals of our company, and they would be able to have better career directions, because in a smaller business, there's only so many places you can get promoted to. And the other upside was the security of their pensions. We'd had a final salary pension scheme for a fair proportion of our workforce, especially the ones who'd been there a long, long time, and it was to secure their future. So, it's
for them a win.
Yeah. We were lucky because the sector we were in, being construction, it's quite hard to have a job for life as well. It's quite transitional. Can you imagine? You go from project to project, and we are susceptible to economic changes, and so having redundancies in the construction industry is not so doesn't freak them out too much. So they're quite robust, sort of down to earth, pragmatic people anyway. And I found that quite interesting because after I left, I was freelancing, and the next company I worked for was a publishing house.
Oh, what a contrast.
Yeah, and it was just journalists, and I had to do a restructure there prior to sale, and they took the restructuring really badly, and it was something that surprised me because I'd come from construction where restructuring and cutting headcount was,
not uncommon. Wow.
Yeah.
So how long was it then? So you made the sale and it all went through, and then suddenly you're not there anymore. How long was it for you before you decided that you wanted to go freelance, and what did you do with that interim period?
When you worked for one company for 20 years, and you only know one company and you only know one sector, although the role you do is agnostic, say, for example, it could be a finance role. You can be a financial controller in all types of businesses, but if you know your sector, we've all got quirks.
Of course.
And unfortunately, recruiters can pigeonhole you or because they think, well, she is from that background. So I freelanced, so I was self-employed, and I just went where the work was, which happened to be publishing for the first time. But I did target smaller businesses. I didn't want, I do admit I was burnt out as an HR director of that large company for me, and also emotionally involved with it as well. And it was married 2 children, and I'm trying to run this high-powered role. I targeted smaller businesses because I thought I can bring experience to them. Yeah. So that was my thought process, but the result was I got a lot of sector experience quite quickly.
Right. So did you have any time where you weren't working? Did you have some downtime? Yes.
When I left McNicholas, I had a year off because also, we moved. And then when I sold the SaaS business, I was part of the leadership team. I didn't say. I was just, running HR. I did stay on for about 18 months post transaction because we were sold to venture capitalists, and it was there was still work to be doing. I was still enjoying it. I really liked the people. I'd received the money, but then the venture capitalists came in to grow the business, and they decided they were going to grow it 5-fold in 5 years.
Wow.
So this was the pace, and also transitioning to an American ownership was different. And I also got to a point where I was like, I don't need the money and I don't need the stress. So it was a life choice to leave. And I declared I'm going to be retired in my 50s, which is, again, you'd think that would be a success. You've retired early. That's pretty.
And it's something that so many people aspire to want to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and I had wanted to do it. I built up a property portfolio as well, so I had passive income. I got that as my backing. And then just on that retirement piece, I was like, I didn't like it. I even didn't like filling out a form to say, when they say occupation, retired. I felt a failure, which is insane because I wasn't a failure. I was actually a success.
Yeah, but that's interesting, isn't it? So to have that feeling, because I think people listening, if they have gone through it, they probably can resonate with what you're saying. But if they haven't, I think it's important for them to kind of be aware of feelings that may crop up that they genuinely didn't expect. And you don't think about that. But yeah, when you look at the form and it says occupation, and suddenly you have to put retired. So when you say,
well, addiction is a disease of isolation. I think you'd agree with that, and that's why people seek solace in the bottle or whatever it is. When you lose your workmates, you can't hang out with your friends because your friends are still working because they haven't had the benefit of retiring through financial independence. It's lonely, and and you haven't got a busy calendar anymore. There's not lots of meetings. There's not much coming in your inbox. It's sort of bits and bobs, and it's like it's a long day, and yeah, so that happens, and it's like it's not significant, but I can understand. I mean, and I'm hoping to get involved with a charity in the professional football arena, Premier League, which is about addictions for the footballers, and just an awareness piece for them, because they're vulnerable. They get the difference being is, I think professional footballers get wealthy quite young.
They
get throwing these these big money deals at them, and then they all retire. You rarely get a footballer in their 40s. They just physically can't do it, and there's a long life. What do they do next? And they can be vulnerable. So it's good to see them kind of repurpose themselves. They become a coach, or they become a commentator, or even an actor or something like that. I was watching Vinnie Jones on TV this week. So he's a Watford. He got a film career out of it, and who'd have known it? And he's got TV series and everything, but he's a footballer.
Yeah, I remember him actually being a footballer. So, but also, I think it's having the understanding that kind of career is going to come to an end, and it's likely to come to an end early. So you can, if you're smart and savvy and you get the right kind of help and coaching and mentoring, prepare yourself for that whilst you are still in the game. But for
like a pre-retirement plan.
Yeah, and I think it is something that a lot of their coaches and stuff kind of do talk about with them. But for the general bod who has built this incredible company, and then somebody comes along and says, hey, I want to buy it, and you've got this idea of, okay, so I can retire at 55 or maybe 10 years earlier than I expected to. And the fact that you've shared there is like how suddenly lonely that can feel, because everybody else is still working. And I think it's important for people to recognize that's very, very real. And I'm guessing that that's one of the symptoms of post-exit depression.
Yeah. I talked to a guy a few months ago, and he had a lot of time on his hands, and he was trying to play golf with his friends, but everyone said, well, at the weekend we can play with you. We're working. So he got into a yoga class locally. He said, I've got to get up and do something. And he was the only guy in the yoga class. And then yoga knows that's probably, yeah. And the ladies were talking to him afterwards. They said, oh, you're out of work, feeling sorry for him. They thought he was, or your house husband. Like,
right.
I'm an entrepreneur.
The stereotyping and just the way that society has conditioned us to see when a man is available during the day, he's either not working or is a house husband. That says quite a lot, doesn't it, about how we've conditioned society to see people's roles and the roles of different genders. Scary.
Yes. And the other instance which is sad, was a fashion designer. She had a very successful label and Paris Fashion Week and everything, and it got too big for her.
Right.
And she got approached, and she was like, the pressure and the stress, she sold out, and it was her name on the label, and she really regrets it because she loved the design. And I only spoke to her post-exit, but it's, she's a natural born creative, and it's like she's a bit lost. So she's doing pottery, and she's making pots in her garden instead. So she has to do something.
It's that drive, isn't it? When we spoke, because the people listening, I always have a chat with my guests before I invite them on. And when we had our pre-chat, we were talking about the fact that you want to be busy, you want to be doing something. It's that drive, isn't it, that makes you good at what you do, and that doesn't disappear just because you've sold your business.
Well, we talked about, some entrepreneurs are workaholics, so they're busy people. They have to pack everything in, and they have to have it's all the overworking, and I know which you've got to be careful of because of the burnout, and it just translates. So it can be, they do loads of volunteering, loads of traveling, loads of hobbies and everything, and they just suddenly become really busy because what are they avoiding?
Right.
They don't want to sit in the quiet.
Yeah.
They don't want to sit with their feelings.
Yeah.
They hurt, so they can distract themselves with busyness. But it's, you know, it's trying to find that balance, and that's why I set the name of my business. Well, one of the names is Concordia, which is Latin for balance and harmony. You know, it's really like, it's kind of an unwritten sort of, that's what Concordia is about.
Yeah. Which makes sense. And I think this is the thing that you help people to recognize. It doesn't look a certain way, does it? It's different for different people. And I've got a wonderful lady who's been coming to my Pilates classes for the last 15 years. When she first started, she was very overweight, very stressed. She won't mind me saying so. And she was head of a school, a big school. But the pressure and the workload that is required of head teachers is ridiculous compared to the monetary, you know, that they actually get from the benefits. But she's done it for years, signed in, she got a good payout. And now this is very reminiscent. This is why I bring it up, because she is retired and she has been now for the last 4 years. The weight dropped off her just naturally. She wasn't following any diet plan. She realized that it was absolutely stress that was causing her to put on the weight. But she now says, I don't actually know how I fit it in work, because she's so busy, as you've just described, doing other things. But they are all things that are just not stressful.
Yeah.
So she walks and she travels a lot, and she will go to the theatre and she'll go on short courses because it's something that she wants to learn and enjoy. And so it's getting the balance of what you can fill your time with, as opposed to it always having to be something that is dopamine inducing and you've got a result at the end of it.
With entrepreneurs, they tend to be savvy, smart, capable people, because they wouldn't have achieved success,
Correct.
you know, without those sort of skills. So there's an external pressure to reinvest. Oh, you've got money. Why don't you invest in my startup, or this great idea and everything? They could be, or start something new, or you did, especially for the younger ones, say the tech entrepreneurs. You started this, sold out, and you were only 29 years old.
Right.
That's the next thing, and it's like, and then so you were successful with your first sale, and there's an expectation to do it again.
Yes,
and you might have just been fluky with the first one. You might not be able to achieve it the second time around. You're not quite as hungry as well.
Right.
And it's a different business, it's a different model, different product as well. And there's something about success in itself, I think. I touched on, you know, filling out the form and saying I was a retiree. I felt a failure. That's why, which was the truth. In my heart, I felt a failure. And that's me. I'm just driven by success. And I think that is quite an entrepreneurial, I can't think of the word now. You know,
it's a trait that really you have to have, don't you? Because if you're not driven by a desire to succeed, you have a powerful why, and that why is your driver. And it's not to be mediocre. Let's face it, is it?
No,
for most people.
So when I left the SaaS business, even though I had a diagnosis, I was so frightened about not doing anything. I immediately signed up as a HR lead for a international charity, unpaid.
Right.
I'm going through cancer treatment as well, because just as I was leaving, I found out I had cancer. And then I took on another. It was basically like having almost full-time job again, but unpaid, which is even more crazy.
Wow.
But I wanted to give back, and I was the real reason. I was fearful of doing nothing. I was I saw it as a precipice of like, if I'm not, you know, logging in for work, what am I going to do with all this time? And then the hobbies. I was like, no, I'm definitely not doing this, and I'll just develop my hobbies. And my hobbies are creative.
Right.
And then there's that expectation, because I'm dressmaker and quilter, my friends say to me, you could monetize this, you could sell this stuff online, you could have a market stall. And I'm like, I don't need to, leave me alone. But
Right,
they say, like, you could do. And I'm like, I don't.
But this is where there's that expectation, because they know your personality and who you are and what you've done. I guess they're thinking, well, this is what she does. She grows businesses and she knows how to make money. But you're now in a position where you're going, actually, no, I don't want to do that.
So, but I had to juggle with it, because I'm like, oh, yes, love an opportunity. I could see an opportunity there, and I could make some money. And I'm just like, but I have to go back to, is this for my well-being? No. Right. And it's like I do a hobby because I enjoy it. Yes. It would just take the joy out of it. The joy would become a production line, and I'll be back where I was before.
Yeah. And there was actually a study, wasn't there, on that if you're doing something because you want to do it, it's completely different to when you're doing something because you have to do it, because now you're making money from it. And that joy, the original joy, disappears. Yeah. I can't remember the stats now, but it's very, very high. So you now are doing Concordia. Have I said it correctly?
It's Concordia Nova. So the Nova is new. So it's new translates as new harmony or new balance. I can't have new balance.
Tell us about it. Yeah. Tell us about just how it works and what you are doing within that.
Okay, so I can help business get ready for sale with their owner, say 2 years before. Like, let's go through the leadership team. Are you ready to step back or step away? Because a buyer will not buy your business if you are the business, and you are all the decisions are made by you, and you've got all the client relationships and everything. This all has to be, you have to have succession in place, right, as well as the compliance things, the contracts of employment, the bonus agreements and everything. That's all has to be in place beforehand. And I'm allowing maybe a 1 to 2 year period for that.
Makes sense, yeah.
Because a buyer comes along and that's what they want to see. So it's about getting ready for sale. During the transaction, really stressful. I'm just be in the background for, shoulder to cry on when they're a bit stressed out.
Right.
But the post-exit piece I really love, and I get because it's that new area, and it's also holistic. Yeah. They've neglected. I can pretty much hand on heart say that you've neglected some of your life because you've been so dedicated to your business.
Absolutely.
Whether it's your personal relationships, your spiritual side, it could be your health, it could be, you could have no hobbies. I don't have time for an entertainment, and it's like, and trying things out. Some people are fortunate enough to be wealthy enough that they can start their own philanthropic foundation in their name, and I listen to biographies of billionaires who give back, the Bill Gates of this world, the William Buffett, Chuck Feeney. They're amazing. They've made billions and they've given a lot back. I believe in karma, what goes around comes around. And it gives them a purpose, and it gives them, my brother is a trustee on a lot of charities. Yeah. Some people they miss the boardroom and the strategy and everything, so they do like non-exec director work, and that's great because it's part-time. You have a title. You're probably not doing it for the money, but you're just doing it you're in the boardroom and you're involved again, and it's what you know.
I was going to say, the wisdom that you have then. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you help people to kind of know where to find these kinds of roles and how to go about it if they really haven't got a clue.
It's very personal to you, because some people are going, I'm really not interested, and they're just, and even if they want to go and start another business tomorrow, it's like, that's fine, if that's really what you want to do. But I believe you should do a full 360 on everything, because that's where you find true contentment. Right. But, that you're covering everything, because my father used to say, it's no good being the sort of richest man in the graveyard. And you know, it's like, what's that thing? You know, no one puts in their gravestone, you know, I wish I spent more time in the office.
Right, exactly. But learning how to not be that person, and then how to find fulfillment, joy, some kind of sense of purpose, as you've said, doing other things. I would imagine some people hit on it and they kind of find something quite quickly, and for others, I'm guessing it's more of a process of try it and see, and try something else and see.
Yeah, and it's what's personal to you and everything. And I'm going to set up a kind of club for us. You know, it was like a little lunch. We get together. We've all sold businesses, and some of them are reinvesting, some are reinventing, whatever. Nice. But it's like a comfortable space to talk to other people, because we will understand each other. Yeah,
it makes sense. You have to surround yourself with like-minded people who understand the experiences, because there's nobody can have a conversation with you at the kind of level and depth of understanding unless they have actually exited. And you've done it not once, not twice, but 3 times. Is that correct?
Yeah. The family one was good, because obviously when I exited the software company, you lose touch with people, you know, they're just former colleagues, and you don't. I've kept in contact with a couple of them, but not many. But the family business, when you saw, obviously, I still talk to my brothers and cousins and uncles, you know, and we meet up for weddings, funerals, and whatever, the usual stuff. And you just sort of know what's happening in their lives, and it's quite easy. There's 12 shareholders in the family business, of what way they went and how they navigated that journey.
Right.
And the why, you know.
And I'm assuming that everybody's was very different.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I was talking to my cousin this morning, and he's started another business, and I said, when did you decompress? And he just said, no, I was planning this even before we did the transaction.
Oh, really?
Waiting for the money to come so we could really expand it.
But again, he'd obviously thought through it. He hadn't just literally had an idea and willy-nilly thought, I've got the money, I can do this now. He was planning it, and that again is the kind of the hallmark of an entrepreneur, a business person who knows what's going to work or what's likely to work. Amazing. So I'm going to ask you, Lindsay, a question that I ask all of my guests. Having spoken about what we have and shared what you've shared, what's the one thing that you would like the listener to walk away from this conversation with?
Well, if they know anyone who's you know, exiting or post-exit, it's just not to rush their reinvention, and not to do it alone. You know, there's people out there who they can talk to, and you know, there's so much focus on that transaction, that deal. You know, it hits the headline on the newspaper and everything, but it's actually a start of a new chapter, and it's just a threshold. And you know, I do, you know, even reflecting back on my life, I can see there's chapters of my life, you know, linked to age or those transitions from childhood to adulthood, or, you know, single to married and everything. So it's just a new, and then you settle in everything. Selling a business has a massive impact, not just personally, but also it ripples out to the family, to their dependents. So their spouse might not be used to having them at home all the time, you know. Their kids, like, oh, I don't even know, they're suddenly at home talk to me and play ball with me, and I'm not used to this. Or financially, you know, they've been able to gift and help the kids, you know, get started in life. Or there's a lot of planning around inheritance tax and gifting. You know, they need special advice and reinvesting their lump sums.
Right. Brilliant advice there, folks. So to sum it up, I'm going to say that you need to take your time. You definitely need to plan it. And that means talking to somebody who's experienced in doing this. So somebody like yourself. but also whatever you decide to do afterwards, don't do it alone.
No.
Fabulous. So I'm going to put all of the links where people can contact you. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Lindsay? If somebody loves what you have had to share and go, I want to have a conversation with this lady, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, have a look at my website, concordianova.co.uk. It's all about me and some case studies, some blogs and everything. And I'm human. I don't buy. And just there's a link if you want to spend half an hour chat with me. It's a really big decision, and this is really deep and personal. And I'm out there. I'm there if they want me.
And you've been. And the crucial thing I think is people trust people who've been where they are and have come through it and have got the experience and the knowledge to impart, because as humans, as you say, we don't like change, but we also don't like the unknown and we don't like the uncertain. So if you can speak to somebody who has got experience, who can just help us to realize that actually not only is it going to be okay, but it's probably going to be really fun and enjoyable as long as you get the right support and advice. Fabulous. So folks, if you've enjoyed what you have heard, I'm going to invite you to give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you know somebody to whom this episode is relevant, pass it on to them, because the more we can expand our listener and watchership, is that a word? It is now. Then let's do it. So share it away on your timelines, in your social media, and help people to recognize there is no conversation that we cannot talk about, whether it's raw or it's unfiltered. Let's chat. I'm going to leave you with this, as I always do. We only have one life as far as we know, and one body. So please look after it, because it is looking after you. Lindsay, thank you so much. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vicky.
You're welcome.